Hello. Welcome back to my YouTube page. In this video, we will walk through a Python simple function. In the beginning, I will give you an overview of what I plan to cover, then I will switch over to Python idle editor, walk you through the script and then run the program in Python shell. At the end, if you've enjoyed this video, please consider liking, sharing and subscribing. Now let's begin. There are several categories of functions such as simple functions where there is no data transfer involved, functions that return a single value after completion, functions that specify one or more parameters as data items are transferred to the function, and functions that allow data transfers in both directions. A Python program is normally decomposed into modules, and these are divided into classes and functions. A function completes a specific task in a program. Data within a function is known only locally to that function. This means the scope of the data is local to the function and it has a limited lifetime, meaning it only exists during execution of the function. A Python program can consist of functions and the instructions that will invoke the various functions. In the source code, the general syntactical form of a function in the Python programming language is written as follows. Define function name open and close parenthesis. Press enter then input. Local declarations, press enter then input. Executable language statements. For this example, the important internal documentation of the function definition is described in one or more lines of comments, that starts with 3 quotation marks and ends with 3 quotation marks. Local data definitions in the function are optional as the instructions implement the body of the function. Location data definition functions are very simple and its only purpose is to display a text message on the screen. This type of function does not declare parameters and the type of this function is void to indicate that this function does not return a value. The name of the function is used when calling or invoking the function by some other function. The function that calls another function is known as the calling function and the second function is known as the called function. When a function calls another function, the flow of control is altered and the second function starts executing immediately. When the called function completes execution, the flow of control is transferred back to the calling function and it continues execution from that point after it called the second function. After completing its execution, the function returns the flow of control to the instructions that performed the call. Next, let's open up the Python idle editor and carry out this simple example function. In this Python program, we will create a simple function for the Celsius to Fahrenheit conversion. First, start out by putting identification information for the Python file enclosed by 3 apostrophes. For the program file name, let's title it simplefunction.py. Then the author information, and for that, I'll put my name Lewis. Next the date, which is July 20th, 2022, and lastly I'll put a short description of the program. Let's describe it as, define and call a simple function. Next, let's define a simple function that displays a short message and converts the temperature from Celsius to Fahrenheit. Start out by typing def show underscore message open and close parenthesis colon, then press enter. Now let's input a short description of the message we want the function to display. Start out by typing 3 quotation marks followed by the description that says this function displays a message on the screen while converting Celsius to Fahrenheit, press enter and close with 3 quotation marks. Next, let's define the print statement with print open parenthesis, quotation mark, followed by the message that says converting Celsius to Fahrenheit, 3 periods, close the quotation mark, and then close the parenthesis. Next, let's define the input value. Because the known value is in Celsius, let's title the input value as C, which stands for Celsius equals float, open parenthesis, input open parenthesis quotation mark, then type the statement, enter value of temperature in Celsius colon, then close the quotation and close the parentheses twice since we have 2 opening the input statement. The input statement reads a value of a variable from the input device, in this case, the keyboard. This will display the string literal enter value of temperature in Celsius and reads the value of Celsius. Now here you'll see I put the data type as float. The data type float will take input values and convert the specified values into a floating point number. Next, let's further define the actual Celsius to Fahrenheit conversion formula in Python. The formula is Fahrenheit, represented by F, equals Celsius, represented by C, multiplied by 9/5 plus 32. The next thing that we want Python to do is print the value of temperature in Celsius. Type print open parenthesis, quotation mark, then type the statement temperature in Celsius, colon, close quotation mark, then a comma and the letter C as C represents the Celsius value. Next, close the parenthesis. Now, let's call the simple function to display our message prior to computing Fahrenheit. To call the simple function that displays a message prior to the execution of the temperature conversion formula, type the function name that we defined above. Above, we defined the function as show_message open and close parenthesis. Next, for the Fahrenheit conversion output, the print statement is print open parenthesis, quotation mark, then type the statement temperature in Fahrenheit, colon, close the quotation mark, then a comma and the letter F as F represents the Fahrenheit value. Next, close the parenthesis. The print statements are used for the output of variables and text strings. These output statements write the value of one or more variables to the output device. Now, let's confirm our simple function is executing as expected. In the Python idle editor header, click Run, then click Run Module. After the idle shell opens, let's input 25 as the Celsius amount, then click Enter. Based on the Python simple function we created, Python is going to convert 25 degrees Celsius to 77 degrees in Fahrenheit. In this basic example using a simple function, note the message converting Celsius to Fahrenheit is here prior to Python converting the temperature to Fahrenheit. Thank you for watching my video. If you've enjoyed this video and found it informative, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing. Please hit the notification bell so you'll be notified when I upload videos to YouTube. I'll see you next week with a new Python video. Until next time, take care.